Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long and look down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, but took the other as just as fair, as having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them equally about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden back, oh, I kept the first for another day. And knowing how way leads on to way, I doubt if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. For those interested in poetry, these words were penned by American poet Robert Frost at the beginning of the 20th century, carrying with them the title, The Road Not Taken. They have said to echo in the thoughts and diaries of countless great leaders, policymakers, and modern-day revolutionaries, and have thought to underpin some of the greatest speeches of our time. Although the poem itself has been in recent time for both its meaning and interpretation, with some claiming that it was actually intended by Frost as a gentle mocking of indecision. For me, ever since I read it aloud as an 8-year-old child in a cold parish hall in Dublin, the poem for me has been one about choice, about reflection, about foresight, and about difference. And what Frost understood, and what I believe his words speak to, and you can hear it in the symphonies and text throughout history, and that is, as human beings, we are always faced with a choice. We are always faced with one route over the other, one mindset over the next, a past decision over a future one. And whether these decisions are somewhat futile or their consequences are somewhat non-distinct, the role of choice has become an ever-present character throughout our lives. It is perhaps our only faithful constant in a world of increasing uncertainty. I don't know about you, but rarely, if ever, am I handed a map with one route and told I can follow this or else. But what does this mean for my case today? How do the words of Frost link to the worlds of foreign policy, to feminism, to both? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the claim that today international relations is currently at one of these crossroads, and that we as citizens and leaders of our nation are now standing firm at a pivotal moment of choice. We are peering down not simply two roads diverging in a leafy yellow wood, but at paths and lanes, crowded forests, potential instability, increasing religious fundamentalism and intolerance, climate injustice, and rampant global inequality. And it is illuminatingly clear for those of you who wish to take notice that the current path we are on is not getting us to greener terrain any faster. It is, in my opinion, simply impounding our problems and leading us in consistent circles. So we need a new path, a new vision, a new direction. And that, I would argue, comes in the form of a feminist foreign policy. And that is my case today, the case for a feminist foreign policy. And if I can leave you with one sentence today after this talk, one single sentence, it is that the world is at a crossroads and a feminist foreign policy is the most logical, most progressive, and most equitable way forward. So to make my case for a feminist foreign policy, I'm going to address three major points, and they are, what is it? Why do we need it? And of course, what is it going to look like? So, what is it? Well, first and foremost, it's a foreign policy. And that refers to a government strategy for how it chooses to deal with other nations. As a foreign minister, you would see a foreign policy as a blueprint for how your country A plans to deal with country B, or how your country A will foresee itself negotiating and mediating with countries C and D. And the purpose of any foreign policy is to achieve and sustain the goals of peace, security, human rights, and development. But what makes a feminist foreign policy differ from that of its predecessors, and this is the real crux, what makes it different is that it puts at its core the role and the rights of women. It puts the history and future experiences of women and girls at the forefront of all policy negotiations. And it acknowledges that we will not achieve any of the goals long set out by leaders of the past without fundamentally altering our existing strategies and viewpoints. It is seen as a versatile tool for dealing with the major challenges of our time. And as a coherent and workable foreign policy, it is said to speak on all fronts, from the politics of war to the politics of the economy to the politics of the body. But before I go any further, I just want to check my privilege. I'm a white feminist. I've been fortunate enough to grow up in a stable community which has not experienced violence or extreme poverty. I have a family who have supported me continuously throughout the years, both emotionally and financially, and I have been fortunate enough to be educated in the environment we find ourselves in today. But despite of this privilege, in light of it, and acknowledging it, whatever way you want to put it, I want to emphasize to you, to the best of my ability, that when I speak of a feminist foreign policy, I do not see feminists as saviors of the developing world. And when I speak of a feminist foreign policy, I do not see it as another form of imperialism in disguise. And when I speak of a feminist foreign policy, I see feminists, both women and men, coming together in solidarity and not one against the other. And although checking your privilege at the door is uncomfortable at the best of times, it's imperative to a policy such as this. As we have seen this happen in history, for example, when the war in Afghanistan was partly justified in terms of women's rights, and where we saw the unexpected feminists in the roles of Laura and George Bush, who said they would invade Afghanistan as women's rights were not being respected. So there is a real danger that when we speak of a feminist foreign policy, we must not see feminists as saviors of the developing world, which is a type of feminism never to be aspired to. But I firmly believe that if we see it as a versatile tool to take into account the unique and diverse experiences of women and girls, and not a strict set of rules and regulations simply imposed upon a region, this policy is going to succeed. But why do we need it? And this is a question I get asked most when discussing a feminist foreign policy. Why would a nation of its own free will choose to adopt one of the most controversial words of our time, feminism, and place it directly in front of one of their most important government strategies? What country would be so insane? Well, here I turn to the words of Hillary Clinton, who said that we focus on feminism in foreign policy because, quote, women's equality is not just a moral issue, it is not just a humanitarian issue, it is not just an equality issue, but it is a security issue, it is a prosperity issue, and it is a peace issue. Therefore, when we speak about the need to incorporate women at discussions at the highest level, we talk about it not just because it is a hot topic or because we as women have a personal commitment to it based solely on our gender, but because it is in the vital interests of all those citizens who serve it and are being served by it. I'm not saying it's not going to be a challenge. History has shown us that it is a challenge to remain morally consistent in a world of market-based morality, but history has also shown us that when foreign relations are continually defined by the same neoliberalist policies that have contorted and shaped the market, certain issues, major issues, such as equality, peace, and even security are continually compromised, if not wiped off the agenda. And we have been shown plain and clear that this does not work. Our problems are not being solved and our security is not being increased. Which leads me to my point that by putting forth the case for a feminist-based policy, I'm not asking the leaders of the financiers of the world to abandon market-based morality on a hunch. I'm not asking for a blinded leap of faith or a jump into the unknown on the wavering premise that this policy may work. No, countless policies and their implementations have proven the success of feminist-based policies, which put at their core the role and the rights of women. We have been shown time and time again, and the evidence here is only increasing. But here I quote Clinton once more, but quote, let women work and they drive economic growth. Send a girl to school, even just for a year, and her income dramatically increases over life, and her children and family more likely to survive and be healthier for years to come. Give women equal rights, and entire nations are more stable and secure. Deny women equal rights, and the instability of that country is almost certain. The subjugation of women is therefore a threat to the common security of our world and the national security of our countries. But what will it look like? What it is going to look like? How will this hopefully appealing rhetoric be translated into action around the globe? What will it mean for embassies on the ground or ambassadors as they sit around the negotiating table if countries do in fact deem this is the policy they want to take on? Well, here we turn to Sweden, because they are the country who are actually putting this visionary framework into practice. And this is the current foreign minister of Sweden, Minister Margot Wallström, and in my opinion, the true trailblazer of this policy. And Sweden have at their core three main areas of implementation, and they call them the three R's: representation, rights, and resources. And I would put forth to you today that we should also add another, that of reflection. So to quickly shine the spotlight on these pillars of practice, the first is that of a representation, which has at its mantra one of my favorite phrases of all time: nothing about them without them. This means that ministries, whether working on the ground or back home, should aim to promote women's participation and influence in decision-making across all areas, and should cease supporting anything from peace talks to development programs, to trade conversations, would see women simply left out of the negotiating room. Imagine, for example, all the women in this room got together and started negotiating and discussing policies concerning male health, paternity leave, or a boy's right to education, and then they started implementing it across the entire UK. I think we could all agree, not just on gender-related issues, but on the issue of representation itself, that this is not the most equal of systems. So it is exactly this type of inequality of representation that this pillar of practice seeks to rectify. The second pillar is that of rights, which is the core belief that women and girls should be granted their fundamental political, economic, and sexual human rights, no matter what nation they reside in. For example, within the realm of economic rights, ministries can work to create access to training and professional networks, can increase women's ownership of small and medium enterprises, and try and remove the obstacles they face to gaining access to capital and financial resources. Within the realm of sexual rights, ministries, whether working at the United Nations or on other ground, can try and increase the right to bodily autonomy within the region, promote strong maternal health, and speak out against policies which prove detrimental to these very aims, and we should never underestimate the power of simply speaking out. And of course, within the realm of the political, ministries, and most are doing this now, but they should stand firm behind policies and initiatives which see women granted their fundamental rights of political participation and democratic power. Now, none of the aims set forth in the pillars of representation and rights can be done without the third pillar, that of resources, which is based on the depressing but somewhat pragmatic concept that nothing in this world gets done without money. So if countries do in fact deem this is the policy they want to take on, they should ensure that there is the necessary financial and capital resources available to achieve the aims it set out to achieve. And I would add here that where applicable, resources should really be directed to grassroots programs, which are already happening on the ground, as there are countless local communities and women who know their plight and struggle far better than any foreign government could even come close to knowing. Therefore, seeking out these policies, ensuring they have the necessary resources to be successful, this should be seen as an imperative part of this tool. And the final pillar is that of reflection, which is based on the simple belief that this pillar, this policy, should be continually reevaluated and reassessed to see if it is actually achieving the aims it set out to achieve and doing the good it has intended to do. And as the world is continually in flux, this type of reevaluation and reassessment is imperative to the workings of any visionary foreign policy and must therefore be seen as an indispensable tool. So, we have come full circle. The world is at a crossroads and the light is clearly shining down one path. One path still marred by the obstacles and hurdles of past and present, financial instability, increasing religious fundamentalism and intolerance, climate injustice, and rampant global inequality. But it is hoped that by taking this path, the path of a feminist foreign policy, we're going to get a different ending, a better ending. And I would hope us in this room, the people outside, and the leaders of tomorrow to want to look back in history and wish to be remembered by saying, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and we took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference.